Okay, speaking of agenda, I've got that on my other machine. And I'm going to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the January 11th, 2021 Communication Committee meeting. I call this meeting to order. And moving right into item number 2, the roll call.
Councilor Anderson,
Here.
Councilor Katarina,
Here.
Councilor Johnson.
I am here. Item number 3. This is going to be a little bit of a sticking point, but we can get through it. We have 3 sets of meeting minutes. October 5th, November 2nd of 2020, which had 2 prior counselors. But what I do on my phone, I don't know how good this is, Liam, but on my phone I have text messages from both Councilor Clucci and Councilor Gleistein approving the minutes from the 5th and the 2nd. Okay.
Well, I believe that it was a verbal, I believe in another committee that I staff, there was just a verbal confirmation from the chair that he had spoken with his previous committee members and they had approved the minutes.
And that's my verbal confirmation on that. Like both Councilor Clucci and Gleistein said, yep, they read them, they go, yep, they're good. So what we have really is our last meeting, which was December 7th.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll take a vote on the minutes, and you 2 folks are just responsible for the 7th, but we just.
Yeah, and I move approval of the minutes.
Right. John?
Second.
Call the vote, please.
Councilor Anderson,
Yes.
Councilor Katarina,
Yes.
Councilor Johnson.
Yes, thank you. Item number 4 is it says discussion, but I think it's an update on the committee and board emails venture that we started off with the 4 town council appointed committees, trying to get a generic email assigned to possibly a chair. We read, because of Liam's due diligence, some questions have popped up, so that's still being explored. So update, please, Mr. Liam.
Yeah, so Allison and Brian Butler and I met this afternoon. I believe that the email addresses have been created. Brian Butler is working on some easily noticeable buttons on each page that will actually go to a form that people can submit their questions and comments to the board. It's going to be ready, board or committee. It will be staffed and observed and monitored by staff for the time being until we can fully vet the opportunity for the specific committee members to have access to that. That will again require email addresses to be set up for those folks. We do have a disclaimer ready to go that essentially says, in the event committee members are prohibited from speaking on an agenda item, please keep that into consideration. It's kind of an automatic generated reply. So the stuff that's happening in the background, Brian thought that he might be able to have something up and running before the end of the week. So once that's up and running, I'm happy to work with you, Ken, offline between meetings to see what you think about what we came up with.
Okay, we'll just let it play out for a little while and see how it works. That sound good with you, Jean Marie and John?
Yeah, I have a question. The first question is, so who gets to see the emails that come in? And is the requirement that they be shared with all the other members of the committee? And secondly, does it meet FOIA requirements?
So that was one of the reasons why we wanted to go this path, was so that was all happening on the town systems. So anything that would otherwise, any email to Jay Chase or Karen Martin or that would otherwise be subject to FOIA, these would as well. In terms of, again, the first part of your question, Jean Marie, was, so that's the FOIA answer. The first part though is who are they going to go to? So right now they're going to go to, I've spoken with Jay, the ones to the Board of Assessment Review will go right to Nick Cloutier. Long Range Planning will go to Jay and Karen. Zoning Board of Appeals will go to Brian Longstaff and Doreen Creast. And Planning Board will go to Jamel Torres and Doreen as well. So it's going to the staff contacts for the time being to respond.
So are those the only ones that are gonna have these general email, so-called Gmail box or email,
That's-
whatever?
The 4 we were going to start with. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
And my concern is, what if they don't share them? I know they're supposed to, but what if they don't? What if something happens and they don't share, or you get someone in the positions who are like, I'm not sharing this, to hell with them.
So that was one of the concerns, was making sure that all these things were part of the official record. And so that's why we wanted it to go this way, as opposed to allowing for communication between committee members and the public in general, is the fear that it wouldn't be captured as part of that official record. Again, whether it's read into the record or whether it just becomes part of the packet, whether they're comments or concerns, I'm fairly confident that they'll be maintained as part of that larger record. What happens in terms of the public meeting, I know when I spoke to Jay, he said, there's some applications at the planning board where we'll get, 50 public comments. We don't read every one of them into the record, but they're part of the packet.
Right.
So, I'm as confident that will be maintained as I am for any official communication. But
And the reason I asked that, and I apologize if this is all, if I'm rehashing what happened prior to me joining, but it just, for my own edification, but I'm sure if I'm wondering, other people might be too, so.
No, good
No, that's
questions. Good questions, Jeremy. Don't hesitate to ask. And if we find somebody that doesn't share, then I'm sure the appointments committee can
Take
do
care of them.
something about that. Okay.
it would
And
be bigger issue.
yeah, let me just build upon that just a little bit. Speaking of the appointments committee, we just read in 40 names for appointees on our committees, which was great work. And I made kind of a flip remark, but it's true. There's no way, even for me as a counselor, to get a hold of anybody on any of the committees that we were just appointing people to, even to say hi, hey, So, and Tony spoke up. She goes, well, Ken, you can always get a hold of me. So, there truly is a way to do it. It's just, I'm not sure how efficient that is. So maybe in the next wave, we'll see how this flushes out. Maybe we can just have a discussion about broadening that. It just, communication, that type of thing is simple, although we do have to safeguard FOIA and all that. So, okay.
My question is, assuming these 4 go well, what's the rollout plan for the rest? And I don't know, Jean Marie, because I don't think you guys have had your kickoff yet for the charter committee, but for the downtown one, I would think having something like this for that ad hoc committee would be really valuable for them to be able to get public input.
That's a good point.
Yeah, the charter kicks off tomorrow night.
I can chime in here. So as part of the discussion about how to roll it out for these 4, we came to the conclusion of creating a form that people submit through, because that way the 4 boards will be listed and someone can indicate which one they are providing feedback for or have a question about. And so we can always add on additional boards to that same form. So it can be one form, and then all the responses are aggregated together and documented. And then the benefit of this Jot form software that we have is that we can organize it in a way that it's exported and we have columns. And so it can be better organized of who it's going to.
So it sounds pretty easy then to just add other committees if we decide to do that.
Yeah, but that was part of our discussion, because we said, let's start with these 4 because it's the most immediate, and then we can see what kind of frequency we're getting and if we need to adapt anything.
Yeah, but I anticipate questions maybe for the downtown committee and the charter committee too as they get on. So this sounds like this will seamlessly, scale to those. So that's a good thing. Okay.
Thanks, Allison.
Item number 5, we have an analytics update.
Wait, sorry, I just had one other comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go right ahead, John. Yeah.
And you guys agree or disagree with me. It just came to my mind, so it might not be a good idea. But would there be value in having the counselor assigned to the committees also receive them, just so that, again, there's a counselor who can, respond or react or anything? I don't know if that's necessary, just popped in my head.
Yeah, what
Yeah, I
is
think
gonna
we're
be the
comfortable.
distribution? What's the plan on the distribution for the residential committee meetings? I mean, you're gonna have a pop-up form, but where's it gonna go? Is it gonna go to staff like Liam was saying with the other four, or is it going to, is that the plan? To staff?
I think it's going to staff as it stands now. I think certainly while we trial it, I think that
Okay.
that was one of the things that we did discuss was whether we wanted, I think my only concern, but again, I'll defer to the members of the council in this committee is, you know, how many committees do you staff as a liaison, Ken? Is it 3 or 4?
Yeah,
Four? Yeah. So maybe just around, you know, again, I don't know how popular this is going to be,
Right.
or how it's going to be used, but I think I'm certainly open to exploring that.
right. Yeah, I actually liaison 7, right?
Okay.
But yeah, I think again, let's get it rolling, see how it works. Definitely plan on the 3 residential, see how it works, and it'd be actually a great opportunity to see how it works and
Yeah.
the
I think
best way to utilize it.
If
Yeah.
it's super popular and our inboxes get full very quick, then it might not be the best use to have us on that. But yeah, let's see what happens.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 5 was an analytics update. We decided not to bring in the IT person. We appreciate his presence and his eagerness to share with us, but we know that Allison is fully capable to give us an analytics update. So
Yes, he did send over the report for us. Liam, do you have that? Okay, perfect. So this is what Brian sent over as a snapshot for the month of December. And we don't have it right here compared to November or compared to December of 2019. But it is consistent with both of those other months. So in November, I think the page views were a little bit higher, but I would attribute that to it being like the holiday season with December. And I was also noticing these dips in the page views, and those correlate with every weekend. So it looks like we have higher views midweek. Bounce rate, that's consistent with what it's been and what we've talked about. It's just how frequently does someone leave a page after either they find the information they're looking for or they don't. It's hard to tell, but it would be a lower bounce rate if they were navigating to a bunch of pages on the same visit. And then the pages that are the most popular, that was also consistent with what it has been. The search terms changed a bit, like dog license was higher up on the list than it was I don't think it was even on the popular list in November, and November was more about election. So we're seeing seasonal changes like that. Same with Christmas tree being on there, but nothing stood out to either of us when we looked at this.
maybe downtown. Do you think that downtown could be related to downtown committee? Maybe. I'm looking at the search terms. I'm sorry.
Oh, search terms.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think? What do you think? I wouldn't know as much about that, but I don't remember that being on the November one.
No, and maybe somebody's trying to find downtown in Scarborough. So which I've been trying for 35 years. So maybe.
When did we ask people to apply for the downtown and charter committees? Does that
Oh.
line up with those?
Yeah, it could, because I remember we did the vacancy
Yeah.
promotion in one of those newsletters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that's a good point. I'll make a note of that too, because Brian, when he creates web pages, he tags them so that it comes up as a search. It will come up as a page when someone searches it. So I'm just curious what does come up when someone searches downtown, and if they got to the information that they're looking for.
Yeah, I have the November's report up on my other screen and
Oh,
just
okay.
use some so page views were about 6,000 less from November to December, about 5,000 unique page views less. The average time on page is remarkably consistent. It was 1:14 in November. It's 1:13 here. Bounce rate was 51.33 in November. It's 51.82. Percent exit 37.71. And page views per session 2.65. So
Okay.
pretty standard experience from month to month, looks like.
Liam, can you share, after we're done with this, can you share the homepage? Because I did want to show one update. Did anyone have more questions about the analytics report? So on the homepage, see at the top, it says stay connected, residents, business, explore, all of that. It used to have the identical boxes down below the Welcome to Scarborough banner. And
Right.
we've since, just in the past couple weeks, Brian made this change to be some of the most frequented pages or ones that we want to drive more traffic to. So that way it wasn't such a repetition from what's on the top menu to what's in the
Yep.
middle of the page. So I'll be curious to see in the future analytics reports what changes we notice, if any, because of that, and if it drives people. And this is also a trial with the rollout of, these are the 4 that we picked of what we wanted to drive people to, but maybe one of those could change, or we could adapt it seasonally, or if we want to push something else. So there is opportunity there.
Yeah, that notify me, I think, would be of interest to us.
Put that one on there, and it goes to a page that has all consolidated information about ways you can be notified, whether it's code red or signing up for the e-news, signing up for Mailer Lite, push notifications, social media.
Okay, great. Oh yeah, your committees and everything. Now, are there any other members of the committee that you can think of, any specific items that that we would like to know about that maybe help us find gaps or something, areas that we should focus on as far as communication?
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you talking about the web page? Because I know, I can tell you from my own personal experience with this web page that trying to find ordinances is a pain in the you-know-what. But of course, I'm in and out of ordinances, either between being chair of ordinance or as a real estate broker.
You mean that term right there, ordinance, is not good?
Well, no, you get into it. Yeah, I mean, it's a little better than it was, but it's still hard to find, but I don't know how better to do it. So, but I just thought I'd throw that up there.
Yeah, no,
Well-
please do, because Brian and I try to meet regularly to review the website and any changes that we can make, and we're meeting on Wednesday, so
Okay,
it's
so
good
I
to
mean, if there's any way to break them down even further would be good.
categorize them.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
just hard. And I've had people say that to me. They're like, well, I'm not sure where to find it. And I'm like,
Yeah, Jean Marie, though, I think a good response to that now is that, we're making continuous improvements.
oh, I know.
So-
I tell them that, or I send them the ordinance. I'll find it for them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I'm just saying, even as a regular user, if I weren't in town government, sometimes I'd have a hard time finding exactly where to go.
Mhm.
Just, so I don't know if we can break each one of the sections down further with the subtitles even, so.
Okay.
I really like, Allison, what you guys did on the homepage with trying to create those most frequently searched
Yeah,
bubbles.
Right.
I'm wondering, like, as we align on our communications priorities and the things going on, if there's an opportunity to think of, like, how do we push those things, even though people might not be looking for them, we want to make them very present. So like
Mhm.
about the comprehensive plan, maybe in the future when it's relevant, where we want more public input or when we're engaging more broadly, to have a bubble on that or something, because those really do draw the attention.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if those over time can also be used for things we want people to look into, even if they're not
Right.
looking for it.
Yeah, that could be one way to think of it too, is that 3 of them stay the same all the time and one becomes a rotating one. The other opportunity I see here too is, like, on the left-hand side, it says town news. And then in the middle, there's a section for important announcements, and that's stayed the same this whole year.
Yep.
So there could be opportunity in that space too, to rotate content that might get lost.
I
on
would
this
move
left
it
side.
higher too. If it's important stuff, I'd
Mm,
put it up near the top. Yeah, because right there, that important announcements, I don't even see that after a while.
yeah.
Yeah,
Let me
no,
be
good-
honest
good
with you. Now that I'm
improvements.
looking at it, I'm going, oh, that's important announcements?
Hey, on a side note, Allison, the mapping that we have for the marijuana growers, is that located on our website?
Oh, Liam, remind me what the next step was on that.
I believe it is. I'm trying to recall. It's under.
Yeah, Brian did put it up somewhere.
The fact that people don't remember where it is tells me
Maria's-
something.
I was going to ask you to hold that comment. I think.
Don't remember, I did put them on the spot, I'm sorry. No, we can get back to that. There's a leader article coming out next month on marijuana that's gonna be a little bit more robust than went on the news. And I just want to be able to have a place for folks to go out and see where the growers are.
It is on there.
And just to be clear, the map that we had worked up was what areas in town, what zones were permitted uses for cultivation. It didn't even include testing or manufacturing where the zoning list is a bit more expansive. And it does not demarcate where license holders reside.
Well, no, that would not be good. Not in today's world, that would not be good.
No.
Okay. All right, so again, I think anytime one of the committee members can think of something that would be, hey, this would be of interest to know, how many people are going or what are they looking for or something. If we let Allison and Liam know, they can have Brian, when he posts a report, I think he can parse out just about anything. Okay, good. So you're right, and that's the green.
Oh, that's right.
Is that what that was? Was that the green areas?
Yep.
Yep.
And just to maybe peg one back for me, I just used the search bar for marijuana and was able to come across our marijuana establishment license page where that map is posted.
Great, thank you. I'll be using that.
But yes, just to back what Ken was saying, if there's anything that even a specific web page that you're curious if it had increased traffic because of an e-news article or something like that, Brian is able to go and look at particular web pages too that we're not looking at in these analytics reports.
Right. I think a good example of that was Jean Marie's stellar article on the Masonic Lodge. That actually drove folks to the web and did some investigation. So that's what it's all about, Jean Marie. So thank you very much for doing that.
Not a problem, anytime. Just give me 15 minutes notice. I'll whip something up.
Okay. Okay, now I make an assumption that the folks on the committee, when the agenda is posted, you take a look at it, like any committee. Okay, because then item number 6 is the communication committee goals for the year. Now,
I have one.
okay, hold on a second. I definitely want to hear you. Just want to give a little background on here.
Okay.
If you remember, this Saturday, you lose family time because we have a workshop with the town council on goals. And last year in January, out of that fell a charge to the communication committee to double the subscriptions on the e-news. That was its only charge. And we said, piece of cake. But that's the rationale around some of why we were doing certain things we were doing on this committee that might be a little counterintuitive to the charge. Okay, because we had defined a Be Informed campaign. We actually had designed literature with a logo and everything. Liam, do we have any idea where any of that went?
I think we could probably track it down. The documents on the In the Know Be Informed campaign. I think we came across those. Yeah.
Because before COVID, we had talked about, well, how can we? Because you just got to get the word out to the folks that there's an opportunity to be informed just with the newsletter. And I think the newsletter is great. Allison, you do a tremendous job with it. But getting people, of course, to sign up is the challenge. I think when we started, we had 1,400. I think we're at about 1,800 now, and I attribute an awful lot to that to Allison. But, you know, the plan was to do a campaign with cards and everything, but this was pre-COVID. You know, this was going to the concerts in the park. I was going to set up a kiosk and give out literature and all. So we had all kinds of grandiose ideas, but COVID kind of nailed it a little bit. So anyway, I digress. That's where we are. That's why we are where we are. But back to the communications committee goals for the year. Jean Marie?
Well, and please take this right. I'm
Yeah.
thinking that we want to put ourselves out of business and when I say out of business, I'm saying we're meeting quarterly or on an emergent basis.
Yes.
And the reason I say that is because we have Allison, who's fabulous, and Liam, who's been absolutely great. And then, you know, we've got our web guys, you know, everyone's now getting with it. And I give all the credit in the world, Ken, to you and what you've done, you know, to driving forth opportunities. But I don't think the council needs to be micromanaging
Correct.
communications necessarily. So I would like to see us put ourselves out. Well, don't use the term out of business. People be mad at me, but to decrease when the council needs to be meeting, because we really, to me, our job is to be the higher level. This is where we want to go. And then staff takes it and runs with it. And they've been doing an awesome job with it.
That's
I
correct.
mean, obviously, you know, the council, counselor corner and whatever, that's a little bit different, but I don't think we necessarily need to meet as a committee once a month, but that's just my thinking.
No, and go ahead, John.
Yeah, I mean, Jean Marie, as you were talking, I was just thinking, like, you know, how do we objectively measure and know whether we're doing a good job? And I don't know what those measures are, but I feel like we should define what those are and make sure we feel good about them. And I totally agree with you in terms of maybe not having to meet monthly, but what would be nice is if quarterly, at a minimum, we met to just think of, like, what are the communication priorities for that quarter? What does that plan look like? And then maybe as opposed to meeting, we can get updates through the staff on the progress we're making to those. And then if we need to meet because we're not meeting certain objectives that we've decided to do, I think that would make sense, right? Like, we don't need to kind of
Right.
get into the
And that's exactly what I'm thinking, John.
yeah.
Unless it's emergent, unless, you know, all hell breaks loose on something, and then we've got to we need to take the lead for whatever reason.
Mhm.
And as far as measuring, you know, the job we're doing, I mean, now it still freaks me out to think I'm the old lady now on the council. I'm the one who's been around the longest. But to be honest with you, you can advertise till your face is blue, put out information. You can have planes flying across the sky, writing messages in the heavens. You can do whatever. And unless it's hitting people between the eyes because it affects them, they aren't paying attention. They could care less until they get the tax bill. Of course, that's the other one. But I just think that we're doing, or I mean, since I started on the council till now, I mean, we're light years ahead of where we were. And I know a lot of communities other counselors I know from other communities comment on what a good job Scarborough does with communicating. So, you know, I hate to see us think we aren't doing a good job. I think we are. But you've got to also understand your audience, and the audience is they could care less until it matters to them. But it's good to keep
Yeah.
continuing. I mean, that's just the reality of it.
And I agree with you. I think no matter what we do, the results might not always be there. I guess the only other thing I would say is, just as we get through the agenda and talk about some of the other things, we do have some meaty stuff, it feels like, in the near term, that maybe it makes sense that we stay monthly, but maybe halfway through the year, Jean Marie, maybe that's when we assess, okay, can we start to meet less?
Right.
just because, and we would get to that goal of, finding our rhythm for how we, do our quarterly planning and align. And then if there is like a crisis or something that comes up, that kind of drives if we need to meet ad hoc or.
Well, this time of year is usually when you get the meaty stuff because, well, we do have the GMO and the comp plan
Mhm.
that needs to get done. I mean, we need to get those done, wrapped up out the door. And then you got budget. But then when you get into the second half of the year, barring any unforeseen circumstances, you get past the school budget and all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, maybe it makes sense to meet monthly, but I'm just I just have so much going in my life all the time that I like to prioritize.
Right.
And I hate, sometimes it's, well, how do I want to put this? When I
It gets
taught
in
at
the way.
Wayfield School, for example, when I taught at Wayfield School, for example, we didn't have kids Wednesday afternoons. It was meeting time. So what did they do? They created meetings. And half the time they were a waste of time. So it's like, anyway, there you go.
No,
Yeah,
maybe
maybe,
I think the point is well taken, and I actually think it's a good goal, and I agree with it. I think we should aim
Yeah.
during the year to see if we can get enough things in place so we can go to a quarterly meeting time frame. I just want to I just want to add on to a comment that Jean Marie said.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
No. The town council communication to me is different than the Allison communication. We do not communicate on what's in the trash bin on Wednesday. And I just use that as a bad example, Allison. I am not minimizing
No,
what
no.
you do, okay? But we need, as a council, and that's really what the charge is for this committee, is we need to be communicating council business that impacts daily lives of our residents. But back to your point, I think after we get some things streamlined and working with the administration, working with Allison and Liam and getting some things in place on the website, you're right. I don't think we have to do this monthly. I totally agree. I would like to shoot for quarterly. Okay. I just want to really call out the communication coming from the council is different than coming from the town in general. So.
mhm.
So, I mean, because that right there blew all my goals. No, we can't do that if we're going to quarterly. No.
Sorry.
Well, I was just going to add, maybe it's less about, again, the frequency in which we meet, but it's more about, establishing a quarterly strategic communications approach through how we kind of plan those key communications,
Right.
and then let the staff then kind of run with that. And then, of course, we can always correct that plan if things come up or new priorities come up, which they will, but we at least have that framework and alignment. Because again, Ken, just looking at your item 8, there's a lot of meaty things that probably will make up the majority of our communications
Correct.
in the
For the
next.
next 6 months, right?
Yeah, and so we
Yeah.
could probably just say, look, this is our focus for the quarter of the things we want to make sure, and work with the team to figure out, well, what does that actually look like from a timing
Yep.
and a tactic perspective to make sure we kind of have our roadmap that we can then, kind of like how you're kind of asking for people to sign up to do the e-newsletter or something in the leader, like we should kind of like have an idea of when those opportunities might be for certain topics.
Right.
So then we could say, hey, Betsy and Jean Marie, there's a charter spot in the leader for February. Want that on your guys' radar so that you can start drafting what you want to put in there.
Right.
Right. And you can do that without having formal meetings. too.
Yeah, I
Like
agree.
the chair can just talk to the other 2 members and say,
Correct.
hey, but anyway, I'm getting ahead of
No,
myself.
I agree. No, we totally agree. We just need to get some things in place before we go there, I think. Okay. And we'll try to do that expeditiously, Jean Marie.
Yeah. Well, try and no.
Well, I'm
That
not-
verbiage doesn't work with me. It's just do it. No,
You know, and
I'm misbehaving. That's the sort of mood I'm in today.
well, there's a couple things also that I think what should be a goal for us is to really try to encourage our fellow counselors to be a little bit more involved in communicating to the residents. Everybody says what you just said. Very valid point. We are all busy through the years, right? And then not to even mention committee meetings and council meetings and everything. And writing doesn't come to everybody as easily as it does to you, Jean Marie.
Right.
Believe me, the last article I wrote took me 5 days
No,
It was
I get that.
and was not
Okay.
happy with it. But I'll turn right around and do it again because I know
Yeah.
the value and the importance of communicating. So I would just like to add some of our goals is to, number one, encourage our, even if it's side conversations or kind of like John was saying and you had mentioned, if we can come up with a quarterly strategic plan, we can elicit input from certain counselors that may be in the right place to communicate on that. And I think we all know now, Allison is great with the assistants. You know, give her the core topic. Don't make her do all the work, but give her all the core topic, and she can make it pretty for you.
Maybe
Allison,
Ken-
can I ask a question about to
Mhm.
Allison? Allison, have you ever, because I did this for a job years ago as a staff person. Do you ever draft up articles for people? I.e., because I used to draft things like for the commissioner of labor or for the governor or whatever, because they weren't going to take the time to do it. And then I'd hand it over to them and then they'd do what they wanted with it. And then it would end up coming out. So I didn't know if that's something you could do for some of the counselors.
I have no problem doing that. I just, as long as I have the
Okay.
information and someone to read it
Right.
back to make sure that it's right, I'm happy to do that.
Because that would take the heartburn out of it for a lot of people, Ken, if they knew they had a staff person who's willing to, like, for example,
Yeah.
say to Clucci, when
Yeah.
it's time for finance stuff, John, could you put out an article on
Right.
whatever you guys are doing right now with budget or something, along those lines, and just connect with Allison and she'll help you draft it and
Yeah.
put it together. That may save a lot of heartburn for people.
Yeah,
I would rather offer to draft it and be able to do that than it not go out at all.
Right.
Exactly. I agree.
maybe one more like actionable goal, Ken, to get to what you're proposing is maybe we just say like at least once a quarter, each counselor will commit to participate in one specific activity from the communications committee, whether that's an e-newsletter, counselor corner, or whatever the other options might be,
Mhm.
just to kind of say like everybody's going to commit to do one thing a quarter, whatever that is.
Right.
Well, if you figure that's a good point, and maybe we can have that discussion Saturday, because it's a
Mhm.
pretty loose.
Oh, right.
meeting.
Right.
But if you think about it, between the e-news and the leader, there's 24 e-news twice a month
Mhm.
and once a month for the leader. That's 36 articles, and there's 7 counselors. So in a year's time, you bang out five
Four.
articles. Or
Right. 4 or 5. Yeah.
I know my math's bad.
I think one other
But a lot of
thing I
what-
guess we could.
I'm sorry, Liam.
Oh, sorry. Go on, Ken. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I think a lot of what we're talking here too, though, fits real well with the in-flight things that come over the transom. Because remember, we know
Okay.
things on Friday when the agenda's posted. Okay, we may get a little sense of something coming down. So that's a special way to communicate. We try to, if it's a hot topic, we will communicate with that topic. But as another one of my goals, and I want to get some feedback from you guys, please, is to be able to create and build upon a topic inventory that's not
Yes.
in flight. I started
Yeah.
one last year I just couldn't get anybody to participate with me. So if you're willing to participate, I'll put it out and share it with you.
Yeah,
And again, just to add it, I mean, what I did was I categorized the topic and then grouped the topics and then gave just some line item topics under it, just as thoughts. But
Yeah.
if you think about, there's a lot of things that we do that we know. I'll give you an example right now. We're dealing with growth in the town for 13 months now. Very, very complex topic. Don't want to bore the public and don't want to over information, but there's key points that the average resident just wants to know, and we know what those are. So we could probably report on things like that as a topic on occasion, and there's several topics in there. You know, I mean, there's traffic, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. You know, we could.
although I'm sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt, but like when you say something like traffic, I'm not an expert on traffic. I'd be deferring to staff on something like traffic.
Well, true.
Yeah.
This is what I mean. This is the council communication and not a staff.
Yeah, right.
That's what I mean. That's a good example of a council communication. Now, of course, support from staff. You know, a lot of folks don't understand that there's a residential roadway in the town of Scarborough that we own, we control, we maintain. There's also roadways that are DOT that we can't touch.
Yep.
Okay, little
I
things
live
like
on
that,
one.
just to get people more informed. And I really think people want to be more informed. So I'm going to keep that as a,
Can you share that again, Ken?
yeah, it's
List or whatever?
it's just create and build an inventory of topics that are
Right,
not time sensitive.
right.
Because I'll tell you what our big scheme was, if we could do that, then when you get a moment, anybody could write an article, we could store it.
Right,
And when something comes up that we need to get, you know, because again, I don't want to
Right.
lose the leader slot. But we
Right.
could pull out of the inventory. It's a relevant topic, doesn't necessarily have to be relevant to anything that's currently in front of us, but it will
Yeah.
inform the public. So
Yeah.
I think if we can get the list of topics and maybe with Allison's help, we could maybe start building some of those things.
Yeah.
That'll be a little while down the road, Allison. We're definitely not
Yeah.
going to overwhelm you.
I'm wondering, sorry, Jean Marie, if it,
yeah, go ahead.
like for that list, or even like I don't know that I know what I think residents would want to kind of hear from. I mean, I know some things that I would think based on the people that I talk to, but I don't know if those are like broad topics that a lot of people care about or just those that I talk to. So I don't know if we've ever done anything where we've tried to survey the public to just understand from them what's important.
Right.
Yeah,
Um,
we have.
Oh, we have.
Well,
That
Yeah, in
might
the
be good
past.
to,
yeah.
that might be
build on
good to
that,
just-
John.
oh, go ahead.
Back in 2000, we did a growth and services project, which involved a real survey. I mean, it was I got the documents if you want to see them. I was pretty impressed with it. I was real impressed with how many people participated in town. I mean, thousands, many thousands. And that's gathering that information, you understood what people wanted to know.
What year was that, Ken?
2000. That's
Okay.
that's where really the GMO fell out of in 2001 because of this growth service.
Right.
That could be a
That's
discussion at another time.
And
But yeah,
we've done some other surveying since I've been on the council.
Yeah.
For various things.
Yeah, we need another one of those. You know, I just don't know if 10,000 will do it, but maybe we.
I was gonna say, I voted in 10 grand to do
I know.
something, so.
Yeah. Or it might, I mean,
Get that.
there might be an opportunity to just try and lob in a simple question of, you know, what other information would you like to hear from the council on
True.
different things that we're doing? Like we know that both the charter and the downtown committee will have some sort of public engagement. I don't know if that's
Right.
going to be a survey, but say they do go down that path, it's just an opportunity to leverage that to kind of get more insight. if we want to go down that path. Because I just think, understanding what they care about is going to help us make content that's going to be rich, that'll hopefully drive them to things like the website or
Right.
things like that.
Right. So let's leave
And
this with that.
Ken,
Pardon
and
me?
I'm sorry, I was just gonna point out that you can also, there are different predictable times during the year when you could leverage the chairs of the various committees, i.e. should write something maybe on GMO,
Good idea.
Clucci, budget,
Yep.
whatever, and they make sense during different times of the year too, so.
Good point. So let's leave it at this. Because I would like to create an inventory of topics.
Yeah.
Okay. What I'll do is I've started one. I'll share it with the committee members. So I think if you see the topics I've created, it might spark other things.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean you have to agree with my topics, but they're real general topics that we can always expand upon. And nothing really is of immediance. It's just good information for the public to know. And I think it will give us an opportunity to fill some time periods where we might be in the thralls of something and we're just too busy to get something out the door. Okay.
Mhm.
And I had one more, if you don't mind, is that I think we should open a discussion with the BOE Communication Committee
Yep,
before budget season starts.
yep.
Okay, so that should be a goal. I think we did that last year. We had one meeting and we were trying to come up with some common areas, a common medium that we could share. And the agreement was to keep it neutral until the last couple weeks of before the voting. And then it became more of an advocate, right? Do you understand what I mean?
Yep.
So what we did was we actually shared the in the know section with Chief Thurlow. He was gracious to give us several time periods and we would write articles in the know. Well, we still have in the know, but we also have the leader. And my understanding is that their communication committee is trying to get something in place with the leader working with the editor. I'm not sure where that is yet, but suffice it to say, I think we should still plan on having a joint communication meeting and seeing how we can benefit each other. After all, I mean, we all have different responsibilities, but we are all the same town. So everybody agree with that?
Yeah, I absolutely, because I think communication between the two bodies has just gone downhill. So,
Yeah, if you want to focus it on budget, Ken,
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we want to make it like a joint meeting between the finance committees and the communications committees, or to Jean Marie's comment, do we want this to be broader than budget and just like have a meeting to talk about how do we better, partner and align on communications, which would be different. And maybe we could say, let's make the budget our focus for the year to like focus there. And then we can next year look for other areas of opportunity.
I actually like that better. I think it should be a generic joint meeting between the two communication committees, just seeing how we can help each other out. And budget, I think, will fall out of that, but we won't make that to be the topic of the meeting. Okay?
mhm.
I like that.
So, all right, so what I'll do is I'll reach out to Leanne Casaloni, because she's the chair of the communication committee, just to see how she feels and what time frame she's thinking, and I'll report back to you via email or something, okay? So, Liam, I know, and again, if COVID allows, we should probably pick back up the Be Informed campaign, but we really need it to be non-COVID, I think. Meaning expanding the subscribership, because right now we're only getting subscribers out of the subscribed medium. Okay, we've got to get the folks that are not already involved and engaged with our website, our Facebook, our Twitter. We've got to get them over to see what they've been missing. And I really mean that. They're missing a lot of stuff going on in town of Scarborough. And I think it's communicated well through the town, so.
Just on that point, Ken, if I could, so we went through the Google Analytics. I don't know if Allison, you want to report out on any other changes to social media followers or newsletter subscribers?
I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I won't get specific on the, I mean, I have the numbers, but I don't need to get specific. It's increasing on Facebook. Instagram, it's increasing tremendously farther than the other social media platforms. And that could be because it started from scratch, whereas Facebook's already been established. And then newsletter subscribers are increasing steadily, but a little slower than the rate of the other two social media platforms. So there's definitely opportunity there. And I can see those as platforms for expanding our following too, just because right now the people who are following them are receiving the updates that we put out, but there is opportunity to put money behind some of those posts. And so it's not just going out to the people that follow our page, but it goes to I could set it for people who live in Scarborough or people who have an interest in this, people who like Higgins Beach or something like that. So there's an opportunity even digitally in the meantime, waiting for all this COVID stuff and events to come back, that we can try to increase it to people who aren't just following right now.
Yeah.
Thanks, Allison. So I guess, Ken, what I would say is, why don't we,
I don't even think it'll be that one.
why don't we put, Allison and I can take a look at what the materials were for the Be Informed campaign originally. I know you did a newsletter article on that, which kind of did a broad overview. And why don't we put that to revisit kind of how we would roll that out or modify it in these current conditions?
Yeah, I mean, it might be worth a look, Liam. I mean, the current committee
Sure.
may feel it's not, but that's why we'll meet about it. So we'll have that as an agenda item for February. Does that give you enough time?
Yeah, I think that certainly to review what's been done. I mean, I think that the general concept is how do we kind of interweave these various communication platforms?
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things that I would, and I'm not sure if it's an appropriate goal for this committee, but maybe for the group to discuss is, what does a coordinated and organized communication effort or plan look like? So one of the things that I've been, I think Allison and I have talked a little bit about conceptually is this idea of, what's a social media post? What's a leader article? What's a e-news article? Obviously there's some topics that are going to have those on across all three platforms. Right. Again, there are more platforms than just that. But, do we want to be as rigid or defined as saying, for these kind of topics that kind of check these boxes, we're doing a coordinated effort across all those things? Are there things that really are not big deals that we just, so does the committee have any thoughts on that? So that's one thing. I think another thing that in my experience over the last 4 months working with the committee or however long it's been, I think that really this committee's been a great sounding board, just as citizens and residents for, again, we talk a lot about the website every month about what we're changing and tweaking to make it more user-friendly or accessible and so I think that's been one of the roles that this committee has probably been underappreciated is that, we're kind of all, normal residents and people. And so we use the website. What's our experience been and how do we make that better? And so I think that that's been a really valuable role that you've fulfilled. So if I heard you right, Ken, going back to the goals, your 3 goals are encouraging counselors to become more involved and more invested in the coordinated kind of communication plan, right? That's number 1.
Yep.
And I guess the other thing I would say, in addition to the leader and the e-newsletter, one of the things that we've done quite a lot of over the last year, and again, I expect this committee had a role in that, was you go back to the budget season last year, and counselors took time to do these sort of short videos where we talked about common budget terms. And so I think that that's another medium that I would say, maybe someone's not a writer, doesn't like to write, so they don't really want to write an e-newsletter or write a leader article, but they're comfortable in front of the camera. And so maybe we encourage them to do some of those. Again, maybe it's a 2-minute blurb on one of those topics that this committee is going to work to generate. What is, have you got out to Scarborough's parks? Do you know that they have, whatever the subject is?
Yep.
I think that's another opportunity. I'd say we should take advantage.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I think that fits well with John's strategy type thing, short-term strategy by the quarter. Because yeah, budget is always right for passing along information. Yep.
Yeah. So Liam, just to build on what you said about like, how do we identify which things deserve which mediums? I think that's where, like, if we did create kind of like a strategic framework or plan for the key things we want to communicate, I think out of that should fall some of those tactics that are going to drive whatever the behavior is we want to drive. So like, if we want them to act on something, then maybe social media is the best approach. If we want to just inform them, then maybe we decide that that's the purpose of what we want to do with the counselor corner that month. So I think that's where, if we kind of think about each thing, like I know the next item are a couple items on the agenda, we're going to talk about plans for downtown committee and charter, et cetera. Like, to me, it's really about like, what is it that we want to do with that communication? What do we want the consumer of that communication to do once they get it? And then what tactics are going to be most important and when to actually, make that happen. And I think that's where maybe Allison's expertise will come into hand, where we can kind of have that discussion with her or the right people to then be able to kind of come back and say, well, here's the plan that accomplishes, what we want to do with that particular activity or initiative.
Right.
And and just one more thing, Ken. I'm not sure, as we are revisiting, and I know that this has been maybe it's not a frustration, but I know that there's some conversations we're kind of recycling now. And I think one thing would be helpful for the committee to review is the public engagement and noticing manual that
Yes.
this committee worked to develop with Larissa. So we'll also, Alice and I can also, I'll share that out to the committee.
Yeah, could you? That's a very well-written document. If it's the one that I think we started our committee meetings the very first year with that.
Right.
Right.
So maybe
I think
we'll review
we
of
might
that.
be able to pull some things that John was just saying right out of that. I think it does address how to pull the medium together and things like that. So
Yeah, I apologize. It slipped my mind, and some of it is, it's obviously pre-COVID because there's a whole section on suitable public meeting places. Of which
When I was chair of communications way back when, that we started on that, and Larissa pulled it together. So
yeah. Oh, 'cause it's
I'd
a
like
good
to see it again. I forget what was in it.
It's a good, and just to build on that, I think that's another. Let me do a quick follow up with Liam. I want to come back to that. Liam, you were listing out the
goals.
and you had one, which was good, but number one goal is that we're going to try our best to see if we can get to a quarterly meeting. Okay, somewhere in the course of the year. Because remember, these are goals for the year, so no time frame on that. But I agree. I think we all agree that that is an objective of this committee, is to try to get to quarterly. Okay. Then you had something, I can't remember what you said before I started rambling.
Just to quickly summarize and see if I have them all right, because we had a conversation offline about note taking. Quarterly meeting, encouraging counselors to become invested in a coordinated communication effort. So they agree to sign up for so many, again, newsletter articles or social media posts or something like that, but encourage that participation. Create sounds like a robust inventory for topics for possible council communication subject, and pull together a joint committee meeting between the BOE and Town Council Communications Committee.
Okay.
4 that you had.
Yeah, and just maybe familiarize ourselves with the strategic plan that you're going to share, because I think that can lend to more fruitful discussion in future meetings. Okay, that's good. It keeps it light. Okay, then we're on item number 8? No. Well, item number 7, I'm gonna suggest that part of the inventory of topics can fold this in. Does everybody agree with that?
Yep.
Okay. And like I said, I'll put it out on the share drive, invite you guys to come in and edit, add to it, make notes, and we'll discuss it when we think it's time to discuss, okay? Just please participate. Because it's been out there a year and you will see one person's participation. And I wonder
Ken?
what that is. Yes.
Ken, when you say putting on shared drive, I don't do that particularly well. I mean, that's not
Oh.
something I'm used to doing. Can you
Yeah.
email directly?
Yes, I will.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, I will. Yep. All right. So moving on to item 8, which are the communication plans for the downtown charter and comprehensive plan committees. Now, this is what I was thinking with this. If you remember, the town council is charging the communication committee in communicating on these 3 topics. So gets back to the how, what, and when, and the who, I guess. So let's open this up for discussion. And again, we can bring this back to, we can also have this discussion in the workshop for, a brief moment, just to give a heads up to folks and maybe get some feedback. Any ideas on the who, how, where, when, why?
Well, looking at this, I see my name with charter and comprehensive plan because comprehensive plan comes out of ordinance. And I'm one of the 2 counselors on charter, but that being said, right?
Well, we can elicit the other counselor also.
Well, right, but
Yeah.
here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking I think we should talk about this Saturday too. And they're just starting. I mean, we haven't even started charter yet. The
Correct.
first meeting, usually they spend organizing as to who's the chair, who's the vice chair, who's this, who's that. They don't really get much
Correct.
substantively done. When they're going to meet, frequency, and then when they're going to report out. So I think Saturday, that would be a good thing for the whole council to chew on.
Okay. Do you want
And I
to?
That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think in order to answer your what, when, and who, Ken, I think we have to understand what's the plan first to get all of these things to completion,
Right.
especially for the downtown and charter committee. Like, what is their public engagement process that they want to use, right? Because that would then
Yep.
tie
That
in.
was established with your committee, right? But not yet with the charter committee.
Well,
right?
we established that we need to have one, but we haven't talked enough yet about like what that's going to look like for
Okay.
the town committee. And so I think they need time to figure
Right.
that how we want to approach it. And then I think we need a communication plan for the council wrapped around that as appropriate. And so I think that's I think what we need to align on Saturday in order for us to come up with a communications plan is really what we're doing and when, and some key milestones around those
Okay.
that we can actually develop communications plans around.
Yep.
And the
Yeah.
other thing that we got to be careful with, in my opinion, the downtown committee and charter committee are both citizen groups. And those of us who are the counselors assigned to it, we're really there in advisory.
Yeah.
We're not there to drive the process or whatever. So that's something to keep in mind too. Do we
Oh,
really
that's
want to
correct.
hear from the counselors on that? Or do we want to hear from the committee chairs themselves?
Correct. Okay.
Anyway,
Let's
something to
have,
think about. Something
yeah,
to
let's
think about.
have that discussion Saturday. Okay. Thanks for bringing that up, John, so let's move on to item 9.
Yeah, I thought this one was a little curious.
Well, John had brought this up.
Okay, and the reason I say that is because not that I don't love our employees and think they should be recognized, yes, but is that the job of communications? I mean, I'm looking at our HR director sitting right here, and I know the town does does do things for employee recognition and appreciation, and we do usually like post it out, that things are being done. So I was just curious why this was even part of the communication,
Okay.
since communications
I think-
committee is the
Yeah.
council.
Yeah.
So
and
I
go ahead,
think-
John. Yeah, go ahead, John.
So I think this came up at the last one when I had shared that for the Community Rec and Advisory Board Committee, that group decided to send, handwritten letters to the staff and Todd's group just to thank them for going above and beyond. And so I think that just led me to think, like, should we do something else where, or just bring that to this group's awareness, like if other groups wanted to follow suit, just to thank the staff. I think, when, not the last council meeting, but the one before the holidays, when I think we approved the extra time off, I think that was a way that we kind of appreciated and recognized everybody. So I don't know if we need to do anything formal. It was just, more in the context of COVID and folks, having to stretch and do more. Was there something we wanted to do more? I don't think we have to, though, to your point, Jean Marie. I think there's probably enough going on. And so again, to your point, I would look to Liam and others to say, is there something more we could do or should do, or does the staff feel like it's all good at this point?
William?
I,
Here's your HR hat, Liam.
I guess what I'd say is I think that unsurprising, the overwhelming majority of staff, everyone's appreciative of the additional time off, and I think that there have been some key moments throughout the last 9 months or so when the councils had the opportunity to recognize the efforts of staff and send a message of appreciation and recognition. I think that that's all been heard. I think so is there an additional role or more that the council could do? I don't have a good answer for that. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to get tired of hearing that they're appreciated and valued.
Right.
But I think I think that we do have some frontline people here who, I think that it's great to hear from your elected officials how much they're valued. That our EMS professionals and police officers who are on the front lines. I think that probably they'd never get tired of hearing that the council's aware that that's happening every day for them. And but I don't know if there's a really coordinated effort that needs to come out of this committee or from the council at this point.
Okay. Just remember, this item was a line item of discussion because of a prior item. So at times, that's all it is, a discussion.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do a call out to Miss Jean Marie Caterina, because she's very well known for doing that. It may be the councilor comments about sending appreciation to the
Right.
folks that support us. Because,
Right.
but since this was mentioned, and yeah, we did that vote for them, I think, that was appreciation. It wasn't very heartfelt by everybody that voted for it. So this doesn't have to go any further other than maybe a mindfulness of,
Yes.
we should call it out more, like Jean Marie.
Yeah.
Okay. Liam, this is my favorite one, item 10, public comment. Is there anybody in the public that would like to make a comment?
Let's see here. No one's in attendance.
Well, you don't have to tell me that. You just could say nobody wants, no, there's no hands raised.
What I meant to say, you didn't let me finish, Counselor. I meant to say that the boards attending are all on YouTube and have access to the comments. So.
As long as we have
Oh, boy.
fun. Okay, well, now that you took the agenda down, I have to go grab my own copy, so hold
Oh,
on. a second.
Yeah. Future agenda items.
Future agenda items, maybe we should just start, while we're gonna have our meeting on Saturday. So we should have some type of feedback input from the full council on item number 8, right? I don't know if we'll have enough by then to maybe then have a discussion to come up with a strategic plan, probably not. If nobody has future agenda items right now, that's not uncommon. If you think of something during the month, you can, ping me, ping Liam, because Liam and I typically meet a week before the meeting and come up with the agenda item. So having
Yeah.
said that, we can move forward unless somebody has something.
Ken, if I
No,
could, oh, I'm sorry, John, go ahead. It's your
I
meeting.
was just gonna say, depending on what comes out on Saturday, I
Yeah.
could be item 8 taking up all of our next meeting, or
Yeah.
you
Sure.
know, not much, or even depending on where we're at with the comprehensive plan, that might be a meaty enough topic that we can dig into that one
Sure.
probably a full hour.
Okay, so we'll do a wait and see on future agenda items, but you will have something well before, a few days before, as usual.
Oh,
And Tracy.
I think two things that I think I've heard come out of this discussion are, again, I certainly think communication plans for those 3 initiatives would be important. I think, do we want to finalize communication committee goals for the year? You've thrown out some ideas, Councilor Johnson. I'm not sure if we want to finalize those or codify those. I think the other 2 items are perhaps revisit the document. I think it's the public engagement document, which I've since shared out. So does that apply here? So I don't know if we want to revisit that at the committee level. And what was the last one? Oh, the Be Informed campaign.
Right. So let's see what the committee members think of this. Why don't we defer formalizing the goals until next meeting? And in the meantime, you'll be getting the strategic plan that Jean Marie was involved way back in as a refresher course. Again, we'll come out of the Saturday meeting with more knowledge. And then I'll try to more formalize bullet what we know now, and then maybe either stay with that or expand on it based on the new information we come up between now and next month. Is everybody okay with that?
Yep, that sounds good.
Okay.
The only other thing, Ken, maybe we could do too at the next one is lock in that list of topics that you're going to be distributing to see if we
Okay.
kind of nail down like 10 or whatever the right number is that we can say, yeah, those are the topics we want to kind of have.
Okay, so we'll keep that as the placeholder on the future agenda items to review the topics. Okay, and then maybe explore what fell out of Saturday and take it from there. So.
Can I just chime in on the types of topics when you are brainstorming all together?
Yes.
I think it would be good to have a balance of thinking about like what are updates that happen. You said some like in flight, like they just come up. Other ones, based on the time of the year, what are some common topics
Right.
that will be discussed during that time. But I think you should also keep in mind trying to balance that with some just like educational, not necessarily relevant to that time frame, but just
Correct.
how you were saying, like the public might not know this, or they're wondering, or they didn't even realize that they were wondering, and you're
Correct.
just informing them on a general topic that doesn't have to do with the time of the year or an update on something.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you what, Allison, when I distribute the topic list that I've started, okay, and again, it's just something I started. You guys feel, Google Docs, you can do anything you want to it. I'll include you on that just so you can see, and maybe you can add some notes or add some topics.
Okay.
Food for
That'd
thought,
be
stuff
great.
like that, okay?
Yeah, and I know we kind of just did the math of there being like 36 different articles, but I almost think it can just be like one of them can be used as the monthly leader article, and
Yep.
that same one can be used for the e-newsletter
Yep.
for the time that whenever it's submitted,
Yep.
just so it doesn't seem like an overwhelming amount.
True, we could definitely repurpose, reuse, recycle, because I think anybody that understands communication, and I'm not saying I do, we know that the message is repeatable and repeated and repeated. It's usually the hot topics, though, that you don't have to do that. But I think the more important topics, which are just the everyday stuff that we deal with, that if councils are real honest, we thought maybe we had a good grasp on something until you get here and you see the underlying information around it. We're forever learning. That's why the website search index needs to be primo. Having said that, thank you, Allison. We'll go to item number 12, which is the adjournment, and I know I can get a motion from Katerina.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, call the vote. Tracy,
Counselor,
please.
Counselor Anderson,
yes.
Counselor Katarina,
Oh, yes.
Counselor Johnson,
Oh, wait a minute. No, yes.
Hey, I got a client who keeps texting me.
I
I gotta
figured
get
she
out of
had-
here, so.
She either had something in the oven or she was selling some real estate.
No, exactly.
Okay, thank you very much, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.